Where are you at? Can you tell them I'm 75? No, I don't. I'm sorry. Are you blindfolded?
She was alive. She called for help. She gave them everything they needed to save her. But somehow, help never came. And years later, the man who took her life would finally face his own end. This is the heartbreaking and disturbing story of Denise Amber Lee. Denise Amber Lee was just 21 years old, a young mother, a loving wife, and the kind of person who always puts her children first. On January 17, 2008, in Northport, Florida, her day started like any other day. Her husband had gone to work, and she was at home taking care of her two little sons. It was a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where nothing ever seems to go wrong, but that sense of safety was about to be shattered in the worst possible way. Somewhere nearby, a man named Michael Lee King had already made up his mind. He wasn't just passing by, he had a plan, and that plan involved violence. At some point that afternoon, he approached Denise' home and forced his way inside. There was no warning, no time to react. Within moments, Denise was overpowered, taken from her own home and dragged into his vehicle while her children were left behind, alone and helpless. But Denise refused to give up. Even in the middle of that nightmare, she stayed strong, thinking, looking for any opportunity to escape or to get help. At one point during the drive, she managed to get access to a phone and did something that should have saved her life. She called the 911. Her voice was filled with fear, but she was brave. She told them she had been kidnapped. She described what was happening. She tried to give as much information as she could so they could find her. In that moment, she did everything right. She trusted that help was coming. At the same time, witnesses also noticed something was wrong. Some people saw a suspicious vehicle and even called 911 themselves. Multiple calls were coming in, pieces of a puzzle that, if put together quickly, could have led directly to her. But something went terribly wrong. What is it? The information from this call wasn't handled the way it should have been. The urgency, the coordination, the response even fell short. Minutes passed, then more time passed, and the opportunity to save her slowly slipped away. Inside that vehicle, Denise was still fighting, still hoping, still believing someone would reach her in time. But Michael Lee King had no intention of letting her go. He drove her to a remote location far from help, far from anyone who could hear her. Far from anyone who could hear her cries. Oh my God, it was so painful. There, in one of the most heartbreaking moments of this entire case, Denise Amber Lee was murdered, a young mother who did everything she could do to survive. Silenced in a place where no one could reach her. Later that day, her body was found. The search that could have been a rescue turned into a recovery. Her family's worst nightmare had become reality. The pain, the anger, and the unanswered questions began to grow. How could someone call 911, give details, and still not be saved? That question with Michael Lee King was eventually arrested. He was arrested by the police and brought to justice. In court, the evidence against him was overwhelming. What he had done was brutal, calculated, and unforgivable. He was found guilty of kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder. The jury didn't hesitate when it came to his punishment. He was sentenced to death.
The defendant is sentenced to be put to death in the manner prescribed by law.
For Dennis' family, it wasn't closure, oh my God, but it was a step towards justice. Years passed, but Denise Amber Lee was never forgotten. Her story became a powerful reminder of how critical emergency response systems are and how even small failures can have devastating consequences. And that's true. Laws were changed, procedures were reviewed, and her name became a symbol of the need for accountability. Then many years later, in 2026, just this year, the final chapter of this story was written. Michael Lee King, the man who took Dennis' life, was executed. After years of waiting, appeals, and legal processes, the sentence that had been decided long ago was finally carried out. For some, it was justice being served. For others, it was a reminder that nothing could ever truly make up for what was lost. Denise Amber Lee never got the chance to watch her children grow, never got the future she deserved, but her story continues to be told. not just as a tragedy, but as a warning and a call for change. And even now, one question still lingers: if everything had been done right that day, could she have been saved? Yes, she would have been saved. This is indeed a very, very painful story. This is how she lost her life. But thank God, the man has been executed. He's also gone, which is, it happened this year. Very painful. Thank you for watching. I am your boy. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.